What's up, y'all? Bill McNeil rocking the mic again, cold representing Rocket Fuel Malt Liquor. It's got the mad flavor that takes any situation to the next level. So when the party starts bouncing and the ladies start bumping, tighten up your flow with Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel Malt Liquor. Damn!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and Marvel Comics is ramping up for King in Black starting in December. It's going to be going through January, February. And we finally got some solicitation information for the books coming out in February, but we also got some quotes from the King in Black editor, Devin Lewis, I believe his name is, where he's kind of talking about having tie-ins and things of that nature. We also have some information on all the variant covers that are going to be coming out for issue 1. And here with me to talk about that is independent comic writer, independent comic editor, award-winning comic editor. Did you win an award as a writer?
Not as a writer, just Ringo for Best Anthology. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it's award-winning comic book creator, Joe Corolla. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, Wes?
I'm doing great. I should have read up on your bio more.
You're fine.
I exposed myself as a moron. So we're going to talk about that today. Before we get into the details, I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Give us a thumbs down if you don't. If you want more content with Joe here on the channel, he's a great guy, has wonderful insight. Let us know in the comments section, because that maybe you can talk him into coming on the channel more. You know, his time is valuable, but if the people, enjoy him coming around, maybe he'll come back some more. So we did get the information on some of the King in Black tie-ins and one-shots that we'll be getting in for February. We're getting a King in Black Marauders, a King in Black Captain America. I think there's a King in Black Black Panther, and a King in Black tie-in to Fantastic Four in issue number 29. Okay, everything's going to be a King in Black. Obviously, that's the big end-of-year event for 2020, going into 2021. Obviously, Donny Cates, one of the hottest creators in all of comic books. Ryan Stegman has been with him from day one on Venom. They've done some great things. Absolute Carnage was an absolute hit, was a little bit overshadowed by House of X Powers of 10 when it came out, but it was certainly a big money maker. They played it on big things. So they're promoting all this stuff, and there's an interview in Games, it's Newsarama, wherever Newsarama is, on the gaming website, where editor Devin Lewis, who is the editor over King in Black, had this to say about the event. At the end of the day, I think these blockbuster stories are at their best when as many of the ongoing series in the line participate as possible. All right, Joe. I cannot get on with that. There's sometimes when an event is so spectacular that the tie-ins are welcome, but a majority of the time I feel disappointed when like a cool story or a cool run is happening and it gets interrupted. I had to leave Amazing Spider-Man a couple of times because every time it gets interrupted by these big events.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think there have been a few blockbuster events that it was kind of welcome, like Civil War. I think that was an event people were really interested in at the time, and were more than happy to not only see what the characters they liked would do in that situation, but tried other books. Like that worked as like a line-wide event. Since then, not so much. I remember one book I really loved following a while back was Peter David on X Factor, and was constantly being interrupted by, Messiah Complex, Messiah War. I forget. I don't think it cut into that, but, like Second Coming, Schism, like all these things that just kept interrupting what was going on. And I mean, we see all that now. And and then you see some of the books that are going to be tying into this, like Marauders. I'm not sure that the X books during Dawn of X were mostly kept out, but then we started seeing them tie into things like Empire, and now we're seeing it, King in Black here. I'm not sure that's what X readers want. A lot of X readers like being like off on their own little world where it's, they focus on the different X books, and they care a little less about some X books tying into each other, but like don't necessarily like when line wide things are like hijacking their storylines. So I don't know, but I think Marauders for this is a number one.
Mm-hmm. So it's a tie-in but it's not a crossover.
Yeah, so that's a little different. I'm a lot more fine with, and I think a lot of readers are, if it's not crossing over into the main thing and it's its own thing, and it's like, oh, you want to have this book that's like, it's kind of separate. I don't have to read it. If I'm reading Marauders and it's not going to hijack the storyline, that's fine. You know, so.
You know, Kyle Higgins, well, he was on Nightwing there for a while, and he was doing some really cool things. But as a Nightwing fan, I found it like so frustrating that it felt like every 3 or 4 months, his story on Nightwing would have to stop and be incorporated in whatever was going on in Batman. It's like, I don't want to read Nightwing for Batman, but I guess they felt that was the only way that you could like up the sales.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually how these things go. They're trying to do that, but you know, from my personal experience, and experience I know from other people, you know, picking up comics, if you weren't already picking up the book, chances are you weren't going to continue, but you weren't going to buy a Nightwing tie-in and then go, oh my God, this is incredible. What was I doing? Add this to my pull. You know, maybe there is data that shows that. I've never seen anything that would suggest that. I don't think the sales tend to suggest that happens. So maybe it is just for the brief little bumps in sales, and that helps. And but you know, I don't know if that's long term. You know, if that bump in sales means less people come back. You know, it sounds riskier than I think it's made out to.
I agree. So later, you know, it's in the same basically conversation, the same part of the interview. Devin Lewis said at a creative summit last year, Donny and Ryan were able to walk them through the King of Black, talking about the other creators of Marvel. Within hours, we had writers reaching out with ideas about how tie-ins or how their books could be integrated into the event. I was kind of surprised by that. I would think as a creator, you wouldn't want, you know, the story or the run that you've been working on to be interrupted, but it almost sounds like it's counterintuitive to me that a lot of Marvel creators are wanting to be kind of added into here, even if it was necessary or not.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't think we're going to once the books are out, we'll have a better idea. I'm curious to see if the writers that reached out with tie-ins, how strong or loose the tie-in actually is. Like, and also if the writers are reaching out with the ideas like proactively, that also seems to suggest that they want to have their say in how it's going to go. So they're spending the time to be like, okay, I don't want editorial to necessarily come in and tell me how it's going to go down. Let me think of something, pitch it to them that I'm more comfortable doing. And if I can convince them to do that, and
a way that it incorporates into the run that I'm doing, maybe accentuates the story instead of just puts the brakes completely on it.
Yeah, you know, like so that way they're like, okay, great. I have this, I can do this sort of thing. Like, you know, like I was gonna have, you know, like Cap or Black Panther or something go to this destination anyway. I can incorporate like, oh, they're on a plane and the symbiote attacks the plane. You know, like they're just figuring out ideas, sending them to editorial in that sort of hopes to work with editorial on incorporating it in a way that doesn't derail the story, instead of sitting back and waiting for an editor to come to them and be like, well, the books need to come out, so this is what you're doing, you know?
So I thought it was an interesting take. He actually had a little bit more to say that, you know, not exactly what we were here to talk about, but I do want to say that, or talk about this portion right here. He says, Donny and Ryan have some crazy plans for Venom in the future, but you see it in their run already. They're not afraid to pull any punches. What Venom is after King and Black, the symbiote, Eddie, or both, well, let's just say King and Black redefines that. I'm a little bit surprised. Like, this doesn't get me as excited. It feels like Donny Cates has already kind of redefined Venom. He's changed his backstory. He's changed the relationship between the symbiote and Eddie himself, where he was implanting, you know, false memories, making him kind of like codependent. He also added a son to the story. Obviously, he has added the symbiote god himself to the story, and the Grendel and stuff. It feels like he already redefined it.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is the like boy who cried wolf marketing that it's not inherent in just Marvel. It's DC. It's comic creators. It's nothing anyone does can be anything short of we're redefining this character.
The most
We're
important
redefining
event
comics.
ever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everything has to be really hyperbolic. And
Mhm.
this falls in line with that. So like it for me, and I think a lot of other people, it doesn't work anymore because everything redefines everything. This
The
is
signal to noise.
you
Yeah.
know, so you know, it's I hate hearing that kind of stuff. I get that everyone sort of feels they have to, and something's going to have to happen to break that up to get people to stop doing that. But in the meantime, we're just going to have to deal with everyone saying, you know, this is going to redefine everything you knew about Venom is wrong, and this is the new status quo until the next event where we're going to redefine what it means to be Venom, and you know, it feels tired, and
Mhm.
but I don't know, like I don't know what you do otherwise until other people start coming up with new things and break this up so we can like move on past that kind of marketing.
You know what's interesting? Also, you know, obviously he did say he thinks, you know, for it to be a blockbuster, you need as many tie-ins. It needs to encompass the world as big as possible. And I just thinking about it, you know, the last big blockbuster at Marvel that felt really important was House of X Powers and 10
Yeah.
because it felt like it was going to change things and it was going to be impactful moving forward. Then I go over to DC and it felt like Doomsday Clock, which wasn't tied into anything, was his own little thing. It felt like it was epic in scope, but by the end, I was less interested, although I enjoyed the story because I knew that it really wasn't going to impact things moving forward, that they had moved on from the plans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I think House of X Powers of 10, like that was huge and didn't tie into anything really outside the X books. I mean, there was a little bit of, you know, once the event was over, some of the aftermath, but you know, like those sort of things really stand out. Those kind of collections that people pick up of the events that don't necessarily have all the tie-ins. You know, like the trades of things like you know,
Mm-hmm.
Civil War or House of X Powers of 10 and things like that. Those are more evergreen sellers than these tie-ins. I mean, the tie-ins are mostly forgotten. I can't name a single person in the whole world who would tell you like, oh man, you know what? I read, you know, Fall of Mutants and that Daredevil tie-in, best part. You
Yeah,
know,
you think about like Blackest Night, it's one of the last really huge hits at DC Comics as far as an enormous event.
sure.
I've read Blackest Night, and I think it's very well executed. I'm surprised, you know, the scale that it was being done. It's really good, and I know there's like 80 tie-ins to it, and
Yeah.
I have so little interest of actually going back and reading those. You know
No,
what I mean?
I hear you. I mean, I liked some of them. I liked the Starman one, the James Robinson. You know, I think Tony Harris was doing the art, but I'd have to double check. But I liked that issue, but it was because I was a big Starman fan, and it was nice to
Mhm.
just come back there. But it's far from the best issue of Starman, let alone the best issue of like Blackest Night. So, you know, you have stuff like that. You have stuff where it's like, you know, no one's going like, oh, you know, the best part of Infinity Gauntlet was, you know, the tie, like the Daredevil tie-in together, you know, like something like that. Like that's not what people are picking up these books for. They're not, you know, it's a very immediate sort of thing.
Mhm.
You know, like, oh, let's get these like immediate sales. But once it goes into the aftermarket with trades and things like that, they don't sell as much. People aren't looking for, you know, the companion trades of these sort of books other than rare situations. But you know, even with a thing like Civil War, where every book has a trade that's just the Civil War tie-ins, none of those sold as well as Civil War itself. Like, you're basically designating books to sell less than the book you're trying to really push when you do these sort of tie-ins.
Yeah, I just really, I don't think having the massive scope makes the story important as much as, there's definitively going to be change, or this is important. If you don't read this, it needs to feel important like that. Like Empire never felt like that. And I think that's what they wanted us to feel. So I don't know, kind of moving on there. We'll kind of talk about all these variant covers. Obviously, I think, what was it? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from IDW, the last Ronin had like 70 variant covers.
Yeah.
King in Black so far, I think they have 15 that they've announced. I don't know. How many do you think they're going to hit? Like 50? Maybe more?
They might. Variant covers get really difficult because only so many of them are through Diamond. A lot of these like shops will do their own variant covers, and you can't. They're exclusive for the shop. Like Midtown Comics always has exclusive variant covers just for their shop. Unknown Comics, I think, always does it. And then you have some of these big chains like Graham Crackers in the Midwest, where I'm sure they're doing their own like variant covers. So like you can't really count those, but 15 variant covers alone through like Diamond, that's a lot.
Yeah, they got some big names. It's Ryan Stegman, Shannon Marr, Lyle Francis Yu, Inhyuk Lee, Ian Berterman, Peach Momoko, Superlog, Philip Tan, Donny Cates is doing a cover, Todd Knock, Alex Harley, Natasha Bustos, Ivan Coelho, and Mirka Andolfo. So they're throwing a little coin in there. They obviously know that they're going to move a lot of issues.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop on some of this stuff, because I personally don't quite get it. Because like you could have a really nice variant cover, but the aftermarket for it, like a few months or so later, a year later, you go on eBay, these covers aren't increasing in value usually. They're either staying stagnant or cheaper. I remember going to like Midtown Comics, and some of these variant covers would be discounted, or they never went above the price. It's a weird investment, especially for something that for most people, it's not like a fine piece of art that they're getting custom framed and hanging in their living room. They're putting it in a bag and board and putting it in a box. So
yeah, I bet a lot of them are getting slabbed.
There are a lot of them that are getting slabbed,
but I don't think those look good.
No, they don't look good. But also these books that are getting slabbed, they're not turning over these big profits. I mean, everyone go on eBay and look at the Amazing Spider-Man 700 Ditko variant, which was a big deal at the time it came out. It's got to be 8 years ago or whatever now, and that was selling for like $750, $900, like in that range then. If you go check now, even a slabbed one, like you can get it for around that same price. So it's not like it was an investment that people made that it's like, oh, in 8-10 years, this is gonna be triple its value. So like I'm not sure what the appeal is for that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's never really been my thing. I think I bought on purpose, went out and purposely bought an extra cover that was a variant for, I think it was Savage Sword of Conan #1, because I like Ron Garney's art and his variant so much. But it's never something I've been into. Obviously, there's an enormous collector's market. Pele is always talking about it, and there's money to be made. But they're definitely investing heavily in their variant covers. There's 15 announced so far, but it's going to be way more than that.
Oh, for sure.
So we kind of went through the gamut. Marvel's. There was an interview. They had the solicitations for the beginning parts of their February King in Black solicitations. It's not all of them. There's going to be more King in Black in February as well. But the editor Devin Lewis says big blockbuster events mean tons of tie-ins. I kind of disagree with that. Joe, I appreciate you joining me. Is there anything else that maybe we skipped over, you didn't get to talk about that you want to hit up before we wrap this up?
No. I think you mostly hit it. I think the way this is working, at least, like waiting for Ten of Swords to kind of wrap before King in Black really takes off, is good. And yeah, the way they're doing this, where like books like Marauders, Captain America, things like that, are not derailing the main story and are number ones that you can kind of skip over if you're just reading the series. It's not going to really derail it in the same way as some of these crossovers do. Is probably a good idea. I'd rather that if we're going to have these books, but yeah, I don't think an event's value is in how many tie-ins it has.
Me neither. I think it's all about the quality and if it feels like it's important.